your wish come true. That child is crying. Why is it a cat bell? Or a bell, I guess. I'd never once been held in a loving embrace by my mother. Same. Never mind. She was murdered by humans when I was but a wee little newborn kitten. What?
お母さん、
Are you being metaphorical, Yumu, or are you being literal here? All the other kittens were... All the other kittens I knew went to sleep cuddled next to their mothers. But I had no one to sleep with. I was alone. I always had been.
ねえ、教えて。
Tell me, Mom.
お母さんはこの鈴でどんな願いを叶えたの？
Okay, so is Ayumu the one who disappeared instead of Shigure? Because, right, I said Shigure disappeared, right? But then, if what my theory of Shigure sacrificed himself by basically making him forgotten, right? So that Kana could get her memories back. So then he disappears and then everyone forgets about him. But then Yuma wouldn't have the memory of Shigure doing the ritual or whatever, right? So then Ayumu disappeared, right? It has to be one person, and I mean there's a reason we're watching we're looking at Ayumu's backstory, isn't there? Was it something that brought you happiness? Unfortunately, I would never know the answer to that or anything else. However, there was one single thing that I did know.
お母さんを殺した人間が大嫌いだ。
Despite my hatred, however, and that girl rescued me and held me in her arms. Felt so very warm. But why? Why did I feel that way? The soothing sound of a bell ringing to fulfill the wish of someone in an unknown period of time, an unknown time period in a far away land, in a land far away. I can still recall that day. Okay, so Yumu's from the parallel world. I was walking through the mountains. He was a kitten, so he was an actual cat. Interesting. It was the same as any other day. I wore the collar with my bell on it around my neck. This small collar that was something that my mother had left me. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. The bell rang rhythmically with each step my paws took. It was a lovely, gentle sound, and I took great pride in it. It was a mysterious bell that with the power in it to fulfill any one wish of mine.
きっと僕をいじめる奴らは全員この鈴を僕が持ってるのが妬ましいからあんな意地悪ばかりをするんだ。
After I lost my mother, I became an outcast. All of my old friends and acquaintances left me, and I was forced to live on my own. They laughed and jeered at me from a distance, scratched at me, and sometimes even bit me deeply. Everyone thought that my misfortunes would spread to them if they associated with me, so they avoided me like the plague.
別にいいよ。仲良くしてくれなくても寂しくなんかない。もともと誰かと話すの得意じゃないし、一人でいる方が気楽でいいんだ。会話は苦手。難しいよ。
Oh, right. I don't know why I forgot that Kana took care of a cat when she was here. I don't know why it took me so long to put two and two together. Look, I knew there was a connection between Ayumu and Kana. That's why Ayumu wants to protect Kana so much, right? I don't know why it took me so long to figure it out. I walked the mountain trails, my bell echoing far and wide. I was scavenging the woods for that day's food.
僕は一人でも負けないよ。
Yeah, and then you got caught in her trap like a bozo.
こうしてたった一人で生きていかなきゃいけない僕はきっといじめっ子なんかよりずっと強い子なんだから。
Berries, mice, moles, fish. I was able to gather a wide variety of delicious food all on my own. Didn't matter if nobody liked me. Didn't matter if they all hated me. I would be just fine on my own. As I was walking through the bushes, I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my hind leg. Upon looking back, I found a man-made iron trap cutting into my leg.
これだから人間は嫌いなんだ。
I thrashed about.
どうしよう。動けない。
Listen, Ayumu, alright? If you were so smart that you were able to talk, alright? If not, you know, vocalize it, but you can still speak human language in your head, you should have been smart enough to realize that there was a trap there. The pain was seeping into my brain, intensifying.
痛い。痛いよ。
Save me. Save me, Mom. No matter how loudly I cried and screamed, I had no friends to come to my rescue. I was alone. I always had been. One night fell. I suddenly heard footsteps approaching. Huh? Maybe one of my former friends had heard my cries and was coming to my aid. Was that really it? Was I going to be saved? I was so relieved.
誰？
I called out feebly, but no response came. Instead, I heard Morse code, a bizarre noise that I could not identify.
嘘だよね。
I realized that it was a human.
やめて。
Were they going to pick me up, pull me to their dwelling place, and eat me like they had my mother? Oh god.
やめてよ。
I struggled for dear life inside the arms that held me.
離して。
I scratched at their arms.
離せよ。
I bit at the fingers resting on my forehead. I kept shouting frantically at the human who had captured me, although I knew that they couldn't understand me.
やだ。お願い。殺さないで。
But the human didn't let go. Instead, it whispered gently into my ear. And then it held me tightly. It had a soothing smell to it. its hands were soft. I'd always detested humans, and now I was being held in the very arms of one of them.
お母さん。
I never felt my mother's embrace. That gentle voice once again whispered into my ear. This feeling was something I'd never experienced in all my years living alone. The human took me back to its dwelling and tended to my injured leg.
なんだよ。お前たちの罠で怪我をしたのに。
It was actively trying to heal me.
そんなことぐらいで許してなんかやらないぞ。
I cried out maniacally, but deep down, I was scared of what that human was doing, so I thrashed about. No matter what I did, though, the human just kept smiling at me. Its mouth would always move open and shut, but its lips would curve up, and it would smile.
ありがとう。
That was what those noises seemed to be saying to me.
ありがとう、子猫ちゃん。私、ずっと一人で寂しかったの。何それ？
My body was relaxing almost reflexively.
意味がわからない。本当に。
The human spoke to me with that gentle expression on its face.
わからない。
Although, just like before, because of its facial expression and gentle actions within context, I could somewhat vaguely piece together what it was saying.
僕にはわからないよ。君が何を言ってるのかなんて。
Even so, it continued to speak to me.
お母さん、大好き。
Eventually, I realized something. I was actively trying to piece together what this human girl was saying.
ずっと怖くて寂しくて。でも魔法使いさんが。
I could only pick out bits and pieces.
だから私、ありがとう。君が来てくれて。
I wanted to understand more of what she was saying.
そうすれば、お前なんて嫌いだって言えるのに。
If only I could understand what she was saying.
僕がどれだけ人間が嫌いなのか、その理由までの全部をこの子に投げつけてやることができるのに。
When night fell, she would share what little food she had with me.
おいしい？あんまり食べるものないけど。
It was no different. I still couldn't make out what she was saying very well. But
おいしい。
upon thinking about it, it had been a long time since someone had last shared food with me.
おやすみなさい。加納上ユウマさん。
When it grew late enough into the night, she would snuggle me close to her chest and close her eyes till morning.
苦しいよ。
On occasion, she would turn over in her sleep, and her grip on me would suddenly tighten. Then she would turn around again.
おいしいもの
She had almost crushed me. But her face was so innocently blissful as she slept. I'd always been hated and avoided by others for all my life, but maybe now I'd finally found someone who needed me.
お母さん。ごめんなさい。お母さん。私、あんなにひどいこと。
She tightened her grip on me.
そう。
I finally understood.
君も一人きりなんだね。
He was just like me. There was a small bell which hung from my collar. My mother had given it to me. Well, not quite. To be precise, my mother had left it to me long, long ago. There was a time when we were friendly with humans. I heard that my mother had received this bell from a human. It housed a mystical power within it.
願いを何でもたった一つだけ叶えてくれる不思議な力。
However, there was a catch. You had to offer it something of adequate worth in return. Hence, Ayumu offered himself to get Kana's memories back.
お母さん。
Just before she died, he rang the bell and used her one wish. Someone who had witnessed her final moments told me that.
ねえ、お母さん。お母さんはどんな願いを叶えたの？
Why?
どうしてなの？どうしてその願いで自分の命を守らなかったの？
Because she used her wish to save yours.
自分の命よりも大切なお願いがどこかにあったの？
I knew nothing about her wish. Upon opening her eyes, the girl gently stroked my face. The noise she had just made had probably been her saying, "Good morning, little kitty." That was what I believed, at least. The girl carried me as she walked through the mountains.
今日はちゃんと食べるもの見つけられるかな？私はご飯見つけるの得意じゃないから。
The girl was terrible at scavenging for food, in my opinion, but she certainly wasn't good. Wasn't terrible.
何やってるの？
Just watching her irritated me.
僕がお手本見せるからそこで待ってて。
I leaped down from her arms, but she immediately scooped me back up, holding on to me tightly.
ダメだよ。足が治るまでおとなしくしてなくちゃ。そう。
Okay, I hadn't been able to fully make out what she'd said, but from what I understood, she was worried I'd get hurt. We weren't ultimately able to gather any food that day, but when we returned to her home, we shared some hard, unpleasant scraps which seemed to be some dried up pieces of fish.
硬くて美味しくないけど、二人で食べるとこんなものでもなんだか美味しい。
As It then grew late into the night.
おやすみなさい。カノ上、ユーマさん。
Once she had fallen asleep, I crawled out from inside her arms and gathered lots of food.
足は痛いけど、これくらい我慢できるよ。
That girl was constantly reading, from morning till noon every day. I would never have anything to do during that time. Most times I'd simply sit on her lap and yawn.
人間ってあんまり怖くないのかも。
I mused to myself as I dozed off. A soft flapping noise entered my ears as the girl turned the page in her book.
このままここにいてもいいかもしれない。
I heaved another small yawn.
この子は僕をいじめないし、家に帰っても誰もいないし。
The book closed with a thump and she picked me up from her lap.
読み終わった？
She said something with a smile, then nuzzled her cheek against mine. I kind of liked it when she cuddled me like this.
今日は何して遊んでくれるの？
I asked her, despite knowing full well that she only heard meowing. It was her job to prepare our dinner, and it was my job to secretly gather the ingredients. She seemed to enjoy cooking with the piles of berries I collected from the mountains. At first, her food was dreadful.
なんだかどんどん変な味になっていくんだ。
Her food was tasting progressively more bizarre with each passing day. I'd even nearly fainted when I tasted the last thing she made. The sharp bit of fizzle on the end of my tongue set my fur on end. But mysteriously enough, she didn't appear to notice the change in taste and ate her food without complaint. It almost seemed to me as if some wicked curse was slowly but surely robbing her of something vitally important. My leg turned out to not be as badly injured as I'd thought.
もう普通に歩くくらいなら平気。
I left the girl's side as she read her books and wandered off into the mountains in search of food.
あの子いつも木の実ばかり食べてるから、今日はお魚取って帰ろう。
I hoped that might make her happy. Thinking about the possibility made me feel a bit warm inside. I'd always despised humans, and I was scared of them. But this girl was kind to me. She was the first person to ever embrace me. The bell on my collar let out a tiny jingling sound. I was on my way back with pailfuls of food when all of a sudden I was stopped. What the hell are you doing? A large ruffian cat emerged from the tall grass with a few lackeys by his side. We were wondering where you'd been, but then we heard you'd been caught by a human, and apparently make you go and fetch it food like some sort of slave. They sneered at me. This is one of the bullies. Was. The large black cat was among those who loved to bully and harass me. I absolutely despised him. So what you up to right now? You gonna drag all that food back to the human and offer it to him? I tried to ignore them and hurry on my way. Hey, you ought to let us eat that human. I stopped dead in my tracks. Heck, if you go kill it right now and bring it back to us, we'll even let you join our group. The bully's companions clamored, "Yeah, let us eat it. I want to bite it. Oh, I want a bite of it too."
仲間に僕を仲間に入れてくれる？それはもう誰も僕を撃ちめないってこと？
Sure, the bully snickered, poking out his bright red tongue. So you're gonna do it? That'd be a wuss. Alright, how about this? Put on a show for us. Show us how bravely you can fight. If you can fight the human, win, and kill it, then you'll be worthy to join us. Let's go, the black cat declared and began to lead the way. But I...
知ってるか？
Huh?
僕はお前が大嫌いなんだ！
I bit strongly into his thick tail. But the bully instantly shook me off. He and his lackeys bore their fangs at me and sheathed their sharp claws and jumped me. This was no joke. Thought I was gonna die. The bites they gave me weren't the sort of light bites exchanged during play fights. He was seriously planning to kill me. And once he had, he would eat me together with his friends.
でも僕は最後まで嫌な奴らの言いなりにはならなかったから。僕は負けなかったよね、お母さん。
I closed my eyes. All I wanted was for this pain to be gone. Suddenly, I heard a familiar voice. Upon opening my eyes, I saw the girl's grief-stricken face. She was desperately holding back tears.
君は
She scooped me up into her arms. Are you...
僕を助けてくれたの？そう。うん。やっぱり君の言うこと、僕にはわからないや。
I then lost consciousness. When I next came to, I was back with that girl, and she was reading as per usual. As for me,
暖かい。
I was on her lap. Seeing I was awake, she smiled at me through her face, though her face was wet with tears. And then she held me tightly.
苦しいよ。
But her scent was so soothing. The bully was gone. In his place was the girl stroking my fur. I now understand.
君が僕を助けてくれた。
Wait. Understood. It was a very heartwarming feeling.
嫌われてばかりの僕なのに、誰からもどっか行けよとしか言われたことのない僕なのに。
And yet, she treated me with such kindness. Thank you.
ありがとう。
I thanked her in my voice that registered as nothing but a meow to her. She smiled at me and petted my head gently. There was no doubt in my mind that she hadn't understood my thank you. That made me terribly sad, but that was why I would do something for this sweet girl who saved me.
約束する。
I closed my eyes and swore.
今度は僕が君を守るよ。
I wanted to say thank you to her for saving me, for being so kind to me, for holding me so tightly. In addition, there was one other thing I wanted to tell her. I love you. I wanted to say it to her, clearly and plainly.
人間の言葉を話せるようにならなくちゃ。
I began practicing so that she and I could one day understand one another.
人間の言葉って難しい。
I would study the flapping of her mouth and attempt to match it with a meaning based on her expressions.
ありがとう。
During dinner time on one particular night, I plucked up the courage and shouted out to her.
僕、君が好きだよ。
She smiled and gave me some fish.
違う。そうじゃないよ。
I did love fish, but that wasn't what I wanted. As I chewed, I continued to yell out at her. However, no matter how hard I practiced, no matter how loudly I yelled out,
大好き。ありがとう。僕に優しくしてくれて。今夜も僕にキューってしてくれる？
despite my frequent efforts in trying to talk to her, it never amounted to more than mere meows. I wasn't any normal old cat. I had a mystical power within me. But even so, learning the human tongue proved a task too difficult for me.
いつか君と自由にお話できる時がやってきたら。
I dreamed of the day often, imagining how wonderful it would be. That day, I was once again scavenging for food for her.
どうして？
I'd been feeling glum ever since I woke up.
どうしてこんなに伝わらないの？
Why?
君と同じ人間に生まれてこなかったの？
I could feel the tears coming. Nevertheless, I trudged through the mountain trails. Even the ringing of my bell felt dull and lifeless.
ごめんね、お母さん。
Humans killed my mother, so I had every reason to despise them. Yet here I was.
でも、 あの子がお母さんを殺したわけじゃないから。
I considered wishing upon the bell. With its power, I could finally be able to tell her that I loved her. Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound from a nearby thicket.
何？
I approached carefully, eyes focused.
いじめっ子だ。
It clicked instantly in my mind. He'd gathered a large group of his lackeys and was planning to raid the girl's home.
僕に仕返しする気なんだ。
Or perhaps she was their target. Next time, I'll be the one to protect you. I jumped across the thicket to where they were. I spent that entire night playing cat and mouse with them in the mountains. By the time I'd finally managed to lose them, it was past sunrise. I watched over the girl's house from a distance. It seemed to be searching all over for me.
子猫ちゃん、どこに行ったの？ありがとう。
Thank you for searching for me.
今日はなんとか逃げられたけど、いじめっ子はきっとまたやってくる。僕がここにいたら、あの子が危ないのかもしれない。
It hit me.
僕はもう、あの子のそばにいちゃいけないのかな。
Even though I'd sworn to protect her.
でも、僕がいなくなったら、あの子はどうやってご飯を集めていくんだろう。
I'd been gathering food for her in secret every day. If I were to just suddenly disappear.
あの子、ご飯を集めるの上手じゃないのに。
That was my biggest worry. For now, I decided that I would not return home, but instead watch over her from afar. I stood at a distance, watching over her like a hawk, day after day.
昨日はお魚だったから、何か別のものを。
Made sure to do plenty of hunting and gathering before she finished her reading for the day and trekked out into the mountains in search of food.
今日はここに置いておくから。
I would lay all sorts of delicious food in her path to give her the impression that she had stumbled upon it by pure happenstance. Initially, she treated it suspiciously, but eventually she began to take it and eat the food I'd gotten for her.
よかった。今日もちゃんとお腹いっぱいになってくれて。
All the while, the bully continued to chase me around. Scary monsters from the nearby town would also occasionally wander into these parts seeking out her hut, but thankfully I managed to drive them away time after time. They always came brandishing those dangerous-looking things in their arms.
どうして町の者たちはあんな怖い顔してあの子の家にやってくるんだろう。
I didn't understand, but I vowed to protect her.
僕はちゃんとできてるかな。僕は君を守れてるのかな。 ありがとう。
I love you. Every day I continued practicing in order to speak to her. A long time had passed.
よかった。今日もあの子は元気そうだ。
He had grown considerably over the period, but I was still a tiny little kitten. Feline species that I belonged to had long lifespans compared to humans. I hid in some faraway bush, watching the girl as she read. I wished I could curl up and sleep on her lap, like I used to.
あ、ご飯をたくさん取ってこないと。
Also, she needed clothes. If I didn't get her some new attire from somewhere, the current outfit she was wearing would become too tight to fit. Pulling my head back into the brush, I turned around and headed into the mountains.
美味しいものないかな。木いちごとか。あの子は何でも美味しそうに食べるけど、その顔を見るのが僕は嬉しいけど、でも時には甘くて美味しいものを食べさせてあげたいな。
I began to imagine her delighted face as I walked along, my bell jingling all the while. Hey. Nearby thicket rustled slightly before the bully and his lackeys appeared. You still doing this? This human that important to you or what? I just don't get it. His nosiness irritated me.
そっちだって僕を追い回すのそろそろ飽きたらいいのに。
We're just looking for a way to kill some time, pal. He's running. After him, boys. I'm sorry. I may not be able to get you anything to eat today. It was well into the evening before I was able to shake off the bully and his lackeys. They had been more persistent than usual that day.
夕ご飯くらい取ってこないと。
I wouldn't be able to get her anything special, but I should at least be able to feed her, so she wouldn't have to go to bed on an empty stomach. However, I soon discovered that her home had been ransacked.
どうして？
Was it the bullies? No. It couldn't have been. They'd been busy chasing me this whole time.
それならどうして？
Not a second after muttering that, it hit me.
町の者たちだ。
Those monsters had come and tormented her while I was busy being chased by the bully and his lackeys.
探さないと。理由は知らないけど、町の者たちはあの子に絶対優しくしてくれない。
I sniffed and sniffed, searching for that girl's beloved scent. Upon catching a faint whiff of her scent on the ground, I broke into a sprint.
よかった。すぐに捕まったわけじゃないみたい。
I went from her home to deep in the mountains, following the trail of her scent as fast as I could. Next within, I could smell a myriad of different scents belonging to those chasing her.
どうかお願い。僕が追いつくまで捕まらないで。どういうこと？
After chasing her scent the entire night, I finally arrived upon the place it stopped at. And what I found thereupon was...
誰もいないよ。
Why?
あの子の匂い、確かにここまでで終わってるのに。
The trail had run cold. I had no idea where to search next. Then, there was a rustling noise. No. Again?
何？
I glared at the bully impatiently.
今は追いかけっこなんてしてる暇ないんだ。
How long are you gonna keep this up?
は？
The human. Just forget about it. One of my pals got word that those creatures from town were talking about going to attack her. He also said you'd been stopping them. What the hell do you think what the hell do you think that did to us?
どういうこと？
Cut the crap. Because you didn't bother to hide yourself when you went after him. I thought we were with you. I shouldn't have to tell you what happened next. Because of you, our village was burned to the ground. A ton of us got injured real bad. This crap you're doing affects our entire species. You're putting your kinsfolk's lives in danger. Can't have you protecting that human anymore. That's why we chased you around. With you out of the picture, the village creatures could attack her. You wouldn't be able to protect her.
なんて。
What the hell have you done? I tried to yell out, but the words just wouldn't come out. Perhaps I was wrong.
ずっとみんなから嫌われ、いじめられ、一人でなくちゃいけなくて。
There was no place for me among them. All I wanted was to protect the only person who'd ever loved me.
そのせいで仲間がいっぱい傷ついて、それは僕のせいだって。
My kin.
今さら仲間だって。
My head started to ache.
大嫌いだ。
I yelled, letting my rage explode.
お前なんて大嫌いだ。いじめっ子。
Sure, I ain't got a problem with being called a bully. I'm not trying to be buddy-buddy with a loser like you. We just thought you wouldn't like to see that human be killed. So when we found it collapsed here, we talked things out amongst ourselves and reached a consensus. We all pulled together what little spiritual power we had and sent that human to some faraway world. Turns out they actually did her a favor. What?
じゃあ、あの子はまだ生きてるの？
Thank God it wasn't any other world. Or else...
どこかの世界でまだ元気に生きてるの？
Uh-huh. But don't worry. Those village creatures won't be chasing it anymore. that bully had matured. Yet I was still a child. But I didn't care. All I wanted was to save that girl.
もう僕があの子を守ることはもうできないけど、あの子はこれからも生きていけるんだよね。これからはもう町の者たちみたいな怖い誰かに追いかけられることはないんだよね。
I prayed that she would be able to live a peaceful life in whatever world she'd be transported to. I wasn't able to speak to her, not even once. Did you know anything? Huh. Guess you protected it this entire time without knowing a thing. I didn't like the look on the bully's face. We thought for sure you were protecting it because you wanted to extend that little life it had remaining, what little life it had remaining.
どういうこと？それどういうことなの？
Well, you see, that human ain't got long left to live. Reason being,
なんだよそれ。あの子の命はもう短い。
it couldn't be true.
僕は間抜けだ。
I very seldom saw humans back during the period when I'd first met her. Yet never once had I stopped to think where she came from, or why she was living all alone in that place.
なんでもう少し考えなかったんだ僕は。
There was a reason she was always reading day in and day out. There was a reason her cooking was getting progressively worse. She was dying. Things nesting in her head were hundreds, thousands of them. More frightening than the monsters from the town. I wished upon the bell dangling from my collar. Please save her.
どんなものでもあげるから。僕の大切なものと引き換えでいい。大好きなあの子。
Oops.
助けてください。
I'll just play it again.
どんなものでもあげるから。僕の大切なものと引き換えでいい。大好きなあの子。助けてください。
However, there was no visible effect. What should I do? I didn't know. I was out of options. Perhaps whatever world she was in now was simply too far away from my wish to reach. I ran. The bully had given me a vague location of where this world was, and I ran in that direction as fast as my legs would carry me.
君は僕に優しくしてくれた。初めての人だから。
Damn, imagine getting cocked by the main protagonist. I was happy.
いつも僕にギューってしてくれたから。
I was blessed.
まだ僕は君に何も伝えられていないから。
It was my turn to protect her.
守るんだ。
Using the power of this bell.
僕が絶対君を助ける。
I'll rid her of that curse inside her head.
そして君にありがとうを伝えるんだ。
Ring, ring. The bell hanging from my neck jingled. I ran and ran, and eventually I came upon this town. The world they'd sent her to was a faraway port city.
暑い。
I was dripping with sweat.
この体は不便だよ。
My muscles tired so quickly. My skin was always sticky with sweat. My nose doesn't work as well as it had when I was a cat. So when was the time between him running to this world to him turning into a human? Right.
それにこの重い体はなんだかとてもだるいんだ。
It felt like even the tiniest bit of pressure would crack my bones. But I just need to persevere for a little longer.
もう少しであの子に会える。
That thought was what kept my legs moving.
やっと君と話せる体を手に入れたんだから。
My journey here had been fraught with many hardships. There was a midwinter world, wherein I'd been chased out by a species of cats different from my own. They'd hurled stones at me, wounded me, but somehow I'd managed to make it out. Next, I traversed through a warm spring-like world. I was stepped on by a huge, transparent giant and chased around by an odd creature with thick fur who seemed to be infatuated with me. Okay, well, we didn't come across that when we went during the rite of departure.
ねえ、どうして？君は男の子でしょ？交尾なんてできないよ。
But the fuzzy creature simply kept chasing me. Somehow, I made it out of with my life still intact. After that, I traveled through a midsummer world with numerous strange objects, where numerous strange objects were shooting up and exploding in the sky. Still, the air was suffocating, and screws and sharp pieces of glass kept raining down from above. I couldn't avoid them all. Many of them hit me, slicing up my skin. But even so, I had to meet her. I persevered. I walked and walked. My body had reached its limit. I reached a full world full of reddish-brown colors.
君は
I found a single human boy collapsed upon the roots of a massive withered tree. He was no longer alive. Nah, don't tell me that's how he became a human.
君はどこへ行きたかったの？帰りたい場所や行きたい場所がどこかにあったの？こんなところで倒れてしまうなんて悲しいよね。悔しいよね。
But I would soon join him. My legs could move no more.
体が言うこと聞かないんだ。
Oops. Yeah, my body won't work. I tried to close my aching eyes. Thereupon a number of apparitions who were protecting the withered tree appeared and began to speak to me. We can exchange your worn and battered body with that of the boy beside you who breathed his last not long ago. Bruh, nah. We will grant you that through our powers. then you will be able to continue your journey. You can meet the person you so wish to meet.
僕は人間になれるの？あの子と同じ人間に。
And now the question arises, who the fuck was a Yumu before a Yumu? Right? In return, we ask that you sacrifice your current body to the tree that stands before you. I don't know, listen. I don't know what these spirits are thinking, but like, a human body is bigger than a cat body, meaning that a human body will provide more nutrients than a cat body, right? Sounds kind of productive if you ask me. It sounds like I'm getting... It sounds like they're losing in this exchange. It is on the brink of death. It requires nourishment to continue its existence. That's what I'm saying. The human is bigger, right?
この人間の体じゃダメなの？
That's what I'm
その
saying.
木が取り込む栄養は。
See, Ayumu's pointing out the contradiction. We're not fond of humans. Oh, okay.
そう。
Yeah, that's my reaction.
僕と一緒だ。
Just like me, back when I was all alone.
ありがとう。この体、大切にするよ。
The human body I had obtained was stiff and uncomfortable. Yeah, thank God the vocal box in this character in this body is similar to the cat is similar to the voice box in the cat. In pitch and tone, I mean. Never mind. It weighed too much. It ran slowly, and its noise was ineffective.
人の言葉も思っていたほどスラスラ口にできるわけでもないし。
It was far too inconvenient.
でも君の匂いがする場所の方向は覚えているから。
The direction which the bullies had pointed me toward, where I would find the world you were in. I decided to keep the bell from my collar with me. Finally, after walking a considerable amount, I reached this town. Somehow, many things happened after I arrived. This particular day, I was due to transfer into the school of that world which she attended.
歩む。一ノ瀬歩む。それが今日からの僕の名前。
Yeah, okay. You see, this body is a Yumu, right? The cat is not a Yumu, but the mind of the cat is in the body of a Yumu. How does he know all this? Who set him up to be transferred, right? It was the name of the boy who previously had this body. Yeah, I figured that one out.
こうしてあの子と話せる体を手に入れたけど。
I could finally tell her, thank you.
あの子が今を生活している場所も見つけられたけど。
Ow. But
いきなり会いに行ってどうするの？あの子は僕のことなんか覚えてないだろうし、そもそも姿も全然違うし。
yeah, you completely changed. What do you expect?
そんな変なやつがいきなり助けに来たからといっても、ありがとうと言い出しても怪しまれるだけだって。人間の頭を手に入れた今だからやっと気づけた。
even though I'd offered the bell in my pocket anything it wanted in return for saving her life. Any sort of effect remained to be seen.
鈴の話は嘘だったのかな。
It just needed to the right time to activate. I had nowhere to go, so I simply ambled around town. Soon enough, a friendly person noticed me and recognized me as being from the Ichinose family. They then took me back to the boys' home, saying that everyone had been worried sick. Unlucky. So now the real question is, why was Ayumu in that world? Unless, you know, they pulled a Kana and stumbled across a portal to that world or whatever. I don't know. They'll probably explain it.
迷子？僕は迷子だったの？
Ironically enough, the boy whose body I inherited originally lived in the world that the bullies had sent the girl to. Excuse me? Oh, wait. Okay, so what I'm getting at here is that the entire family wanted to get the fuck out of that place, right? And to be expected, considering that there's those kinds of monsters there. They all left, buggered off. They all got here. They were all able to get here, except Ayumu, who died. Skill issue. And due to certain circumstances, he had wandered astray into the fall-colored world. Everyone had been worried sick, and they searched frantically for him day after day.
すごい。この子は僕と違って一人じゃないんだ。
I mean, technically was. In his final moments, he was. Which is, like, the worst time to be alone. I began to sift through the memories still stored within this boy's mind. What do you mean? You're in his mind. Wouldn't they be your memories?
君が果たそうとしていた願い、僕が代わりに渡しておいたから。
Not long ago, when the new school semester started, he moved out of his house and began living in a student accommodation dorm. Wait, no. Hang on. Wait, no. So he got there to Earth, or whatever, to Japan, and then ran away someplace and died. I am confused. He wanted to find something to give his grandparents as a gift to show his appreciation to them for raising him in place of his mother and father. He was walking around looking when by some twist of fate was transported to that world. Okay, so I was right the first time. He pulled a Kana, got transported to that world after thank God. Wait, no. Did he get transported to the... Okay, this is... So what happened is that Ayumu and his grandparents fucked off to this place because they didn't want to stay at that place. Who would have guessed? And then Ayumu, who was trying to find a gift for his grandparents, got transported back and had to escape again. and died. Okay, maybe not a skill issue. Very unfortunate. When I found his body, there was something he was holding on to. It was a piece of amber with a dragonfly encased in it that he had found in the fall world. Unless he didn't get transported back to the original world that they escaped from, but he got transported to the fall world and somehow couldn't make his way back. His grandfather loved dragonflies, and his grandmother loved amber. He truly thought he'd found the perfect gift.
一ノ瀬歩む、少しでも僕は君の役に立てたかな。君のおかげで僕は本当に助かったんだ。君のおじいちゃんとおばあちゃんに無理を言って転入先と引っ越し先をあの子と同じ場所に変えてもらえたのは、きっと日頃から君がとてもいい子だったからだよね。
So Yumu is a girl. Thank God. Yumu is a girl, but the cat who is controlling Yumu is a boy. Okay, got it. This would give me the perfect excuse to meet and interact with her. Perhaps I could even watch over and protect her like I did when I was a kitten.
僕が君の頭の中の意地悪から君を自由にするから。
The bell in my pocket jingled. The day I left home, Ichinose Ayumu's grandparents hugged me so warmly and affectionately. Are you sure you won't need any furniture or clothes? They asked me worryingly. They really have everything you'll need already there.
うん、本当だよ。
In brackets, they didn't. It was a lie. But I couldn't bring myself to indulge in their kindness any further. After all, I wasn't their grandson. Okay, no, I was right. Well, okay, I didn't say it aloud, but I was right that it was a typo. Right? Hang on, I need to read this again. Unless I read it wrong. Hang on. Okay, no, I read it wrong. Don't worry about it. I'm just an idiot.
必要なものは全部あるんだよ。だから心配しないで。
The two of them nodded, saying, "All right." But goodness, I never expected you to suddenly want to leave home. You've always been such a tender, delicate child, just like a girl. I smiled, reminding me that I was always welcome to come and live with them again if I experienced difficulties. I'm getting mixed signals here, alright? Is he a girl or is she a boy? I don't know. I don't feel like you have to live there if you don't want to. We're always here for you, sweetie.
ありがとう、おじいちゃん、おばあちゃん。僕に優しくしてくれて。
This world was full of wonderful people with big hearts.
一ノ瀬歩です。よろしくお願いします。
This fucking dipshit named Yuma interrupted my introduction. Turns out the world is not full of kind people. This was my first experience with the school.
人間がいっぱい。
I was so nervous, my body was stiff as a board. They were all eyeing me they were all eyeing me curiously. Rigid steps, I walked to my seat.
どうしよう。人間と仲良くする方法がよくわからない。
Let alone how to talk to them.
僕はちゃんとやれるかな。また仲間外れにされて嫌われて一人ぼっちになるのかな。
Believe me, humans are much worse than cats. Unless you're talking about the cats from the musical, then in which case that cancels itself out. I was scared.
嫌われ
Never
ない
mind.
ように勉強しないと。おじいちゃんとおばあちゃんに買ってもらった教科書で人間のことをいろいろと。
Sorry, I made such a ruckus. The boy in the seat next to me looked over and spoke to me. I suddenly remembered that this boy had been the one who stood up and shouted in confusion when I walked through the door.
この子、あの一根っこの黒猫みたいな嫌な子かと思ったけど。
Yeah, I told you. Turns out the world is still as shit as it was in the. Turns out this world is still as shit as the other one. But yes, sorry for shouting and all. I didn't mean to.
なんだかそうでもないみたい。
My nerves began to relax ever so slightly.
僕は大丈夫だから気にしないで。
Well, if you're fine, then we're all good, I guess. Thanks. Oh, right. I should probably tell you my name. The boy continued. I'm Kanoe Yuma. Pleasure to meet you. I know that Yuma. I know that name. Kana kept saying that girl kept saying Yuma whenever she went to sleep.
カノウエ、ユーマ。
It all makes sense now. It was the name she'd repeated every night before going to bed.
<sighs> 僕ってダメだな。
I'd been living in the dorm for a few days.
あの子と話す機会はたくさんあったのに。ありがとう言えたのに。だけどあの子を前にしたら勇気がなくて。なんでかな。勇気を出して子猫の時は言えたのに。
Well, the thing is, you didn't actually say it when you were a kitten, did you?
人間になった今はまた明日でもいいかなって。結局今日まで言えてない。本当に僕ってダメなやつ。
In addition, even as a human was just so complicated. Being up front with people and was incredibly difficult, I found.
だけど勉強することは面白いよ。人間の頭を手に入れたから勉強すればするだけちょっとずつ偉くなっていく自分がわかるよ。
Yeah, I wish I had the ability to know when if I'm getting smarter every day. Honestly, sometimes when I watch a YouTube short, I feel like I've gotten dumber.
そして自分がどんどん意味のある誰かに慣れていってるようなそんな気がするんだ。 だからかな。ここ数日この寮で生活していて分かったことがあるんだ。
She was most likely in love with Kanoyuma. Well, before she was actually in love with him, yes. No, I mean, what did that mean to me? There was a queasiness in my chest. That's not what the statement means. It's usually in your stomach, right? Unless unless we're thinking of different words. It made me feel somewhat sad.
でもあの子楽しそうだ。あの場所で僕と一緒にいた時よりも安心した顔してる。
It's almost like she isn't getting chased by monsters or at threat of being chased by monsters every day. I believe that Konoyuma, he was capable of saving her. He's not. He had to be. It was well within his powers.
それなら僕は必要ない。君を追いかけてここに来た意味全然なかった。
I began to wonder. Or was I here?
この鈴の出番もないのかな。
At this point, I was beginning to have doubts over whether this bell was truly capable of granting a wish. But perhaps it didn't matter.
あの子が幸せならそのために役立つのが僕じゃなくても。
Well, it turns out in the end he took it more literally. He meant it more literally. As long as she was smiling, nothing else was important.
それに僕にも大切なものができたよ。この寮に住む人たちはみんないい人ばかり。
Being around them was so much fun. Even if I had trouble participating in their conversations, just being part of such a warm, cheerful atmosphere was wonderful.
ユーマが作ってくれるご飯は美味しくて、
It's alright compared to Mio's.
ユーマに将来の夢みたいなものを聞かれて、僕が誰かを自由にできる人になりたいって。
I wanted to be able to set her free.
そんな今思えばちょっと変だったかもしれないことを言った僕をユーマは笑わなかった。友達
I knew there was gonna be another one. My friends. The power of friendship. Now I get what those animes meant.
僕
Was it really okay for me?
ここのみんなの仲間だと思ってもいいのかな。
Even if only one of them, just a single one of them, thought of me as their friend, that would be enough. I'd finally gained that precious something that I'd never had growing up.
あとはあの子にありがとうが言えたなら。
That was my final wish.
ずっとこのままで。
With her, with Yuma, with everyone else.
でもね。
I knew that was mere wishful thinking. Smoke that the manager had burned filled the room. Along with it, the streams of evil butterflies that she breathed out. Kana, hang in there. As soon as they spewed from her mouth, she lost consciousness. Please, wake up. Can't believe there are so many of these things inside her. But the number was a little too was of little importance at this stage. According to the manager, the insects grew inside her head, which grew inside her head were so close to adulthood that these levels of smoke would not nearly be enough to kill them. The butterflies made an attempt to return inside her, back to their resting place, where they would slumber until they hatched and fully matured. Shinku! Can you hear me, Shinku? I'm going to take these butterflies inside me so Kana doesn't have to. That's how I've decided to fight against this. He must seem to be muttering something to himself. No matter how many of these things I inhale, if I go write about it in the diary, and make sure to tear out and throw away the pages, I should be able to nullify everything. Yeah, you're right. I know. All I'd be doing ultimately is tearing out the memories. The event itself will have still occurred. But there's just no other way to save Kana. If there's no way to kill the butterflies themselves, then our only option is for someone else to inhale them and become their sacrifice instead of her. Yes, I know Kana wouldn't want that, but it's the only thing we can do at this point. Plus, Shinku, look, when those butterflies hatch in my head and begin the process of killing me from the inside, you could just heal the wound and save me. Why not? Why won't you let me? I could keenly feel the bell in my pocket.
So.
The time is right.
立ち向かうこと。そういうの悪くないね。
Forget about the power of friendship. How about the power of bell? Even though I wasn't touching the bell, I could distinctly hear its ring.
これは喜べばいいのかな。あの子のことに関してはユーマにしかできないことが多すぎる。だから僕は何もしてあげられないし、そもそもあの子に僕は求められてもいない。
That's what I thought.
やっぱりダメだ。ユーマ、君には任せられない。
Ayumu?
あの子を助けるのは僕の役目。そう決めてた。ずっと前から。君よりも先に。
I reached in and took out the bell. It rang gently, oscillating atop my palm.
ユーマ、聞いてほしいんだ。
Okay.
この鈴には不思議な力があって、それを使えば僕はあの子を助けることができるんだと思う。でもね、今日までこの鈴はどんなに呼びかけても僕の言うことを聞いてくれなかった。どんなにあの子を助けてとお願いしても絶対に聞き入れてくれなかったんだ。
What are you talking about, Ayumu?
あの子を助ける方法を僕は持っているということ。この手のひらに。 これまでどんなにお願いしても全然反応してくれなかったこの鈴が、やっと僕の気持ちに応えてくれてるみたいなんだ。どうして今までずっと無反応だったのがいきなりこんな場面で動き出したのか。その理由は僕にはわからないんだ。僕には聞かされていないだけの何かの大きな理由があるのかも。
Yumu, you're really confusing me.
言ったでしょ、僕がその子を助けるんだって。
I know, but what are you... I smiled at Yuma, who was still staring at me in bafflement.
ユーマ、あの子お願い。僕にはこんなことくらいしかできないけれど、ユーマならもっと。
Yumu, wait, don't tell me you're planning to... Closed my eyes and wished from the bottom of my heart.
どうかお願い。僕のすべてをあげるから。
I lived alone for so long. There was one person, one single girl who'd shown me love.
あの子の命を助けてください。
The bell then let out a particularly loud ring. Huh? And in that very moment, the luminescent butterflies flittering and fluttering about all disappeared like magic. Then, slowly but surely, I began to disappear.
さようなら、ユーマ。
But he could no longer hear my voice. He'd fallen asleep, as had all the others. They'd fallen into a deep slumber.
さようなら。
I knew there was no point in bidding them farewell. They wouldn't hear me.
みんなが目を覚ましたとき、そして君の願いが叶うとき、僕はもうここにはいないけど。
But that was for the best. I was finally able to save you.
この鈴はたった一つだけ願いを叶えてくれるけど、代わりに大切な何かを奪っていく、そんな優しいだけじゃない願いの力。
I remember now, when I first wished upon this bell, I offered it that which was most precious to me. In exchange for it, I asked it to save her life. My most precious thing. The most precious thing to me was going to disappear from all of their minds. From mine too, I realized.
これでいいんだ。
I was finally able to repay her for all she'd done for me.
後悔なんか一つもない。
Eventually, I knew we would all have to part ways. Even if this hadn't happened, a day would come when I'd have to say goodbye to them. Even had I not wished upon this bell, they probably would have forgotten about me after a few years anyhow. I'd always been hated and bullied by everyone I came across. I'd always been... Wait, yeah.
どうせみんな僕のことなんかすぐに忘れる。
It was only a matter of time. And how I used that time to have a positive impact on them.
どうせ同じ結果なら誰かの役に立つ方を選びたい。大切な人の役に立つ方を。
My vision was fading to white.
お母さん、僕の願い叶ったよ。大好きな君を自由にすること。最後に君の役に立ててよかった。
Thank you. You brought happiness into my life.
初めてギューってしてくれた時のこと忘れないから。
Slowly, and ever so gradually, I faded away. I could hear a familiar voice. Son. She'd woken up.
嘘。
He was calling to me. It was that kind voice. The voice I'd hear whenever she'd hold me tight. Thank you. Love you? I don't know.
わからない。君が何を言ってるのかやっぱり僕にはわからないよ。
It was all just noise to me now. He was calling out to me, arms outreached. Please, no.
消えたくない。
I reached out my hands.
君に触れたい。
Sometime in the meanwhile, I'd transformed. Upon realizing my human body had disappeared, and I'd reverted back to my cat form.
やだ。
I couldn't see anymore.
まだ僕は何も伝えられていないんだ。
Thank you. I love you.
僕に優しくしてくれた人。
Please. I don't want you to forget about me. Met you. Someone was softly stroking my cheek in the darkness. I remember you. That was what she seemed to be telling me.
やっと会えたね、子猫ちゃん。
You remembered me.
あ、 ありがとう。 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 あ りが
I was cut off.
た
There was nobody there. Of course.
僕はまたずっとずっと一人きり
The tears overflowed. I heard the jingle of a bell. My sweet darling child. Someone's prayer from years past came to me. If anything should happen to you at some point far, far in the future, then please use this wish of mine to aid you.
お母さんお母さん
I called out to her again and again amid the darkness.